Hello there and welcome to this Advective weather video. A historic blizzard is sweeping the northern plains and Midwestern United States. It's already begun to arrive in much of the northern plains. Several inches of snow have already fallen across parts of the Dakotas and places farther west, just starting to really pick up in Minnesota into Wisconsin, and it'll be moving farther east through the next couple of days before it moves off the east coast into Nova Scotia. As you can see from the National Weather Service key messages, feel free to pause and read in your own time, but up to 2 days of continuous snowfall is expected in some parts of South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, even into Michigan, which is going to lead to a widespread area of over a foot of snow, with local totals up to 2 foot in low-lying areas. That's not mountains, that's low-lying areas with population centers, as we'll see when we focus on Minnesota in particular later in the video. In addition to the major and likely historic snowfall that we're expected to see in the next couple of days, there's also going to be an ice storm on the southern part of this system, producing up to ½ an inch of ice in southern Wisconsin and Michigan, with significant totals also expected in Iowa, New York, and parts of Canada, especially the Toronto metro. Now, here is the setup for tomorrow. As you can see, a huge region of the United States affected, substantial snowfall across many states, and just to the south of that, substantial freezing rain, all the way from the Central Plains to almost the US East Coast, which is pretty incredible for any time of year. To the south of that, you'll also notice that there is flash flooding and severe weather expected tomorrow. We'll go into that at the end of this video. Now here's a model showing what you can expect. As you can see, this starts from a couple of hours ago, and the snow is already ongoing across much of that risk area where blizzard warnings are in effect. Go through all the warnings in just a second, but you can see 48 hours of continuous snowfall. As you look at the hour count tick up every 3 hours, continuous snowfall across much of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and it just continues for 2 days straight, with substantial rates of snowfall up to 2 inches an hour at times within this long duration snowfall event. But it's not just going to be falling, it will be blowing as well. Strong winds will lead to widespread blizzard conditions across a large part of this region. You do not want to be traveling if you are under a winter storm warning or a blizzard warning in this region, as the conditions will be life-threatening. Most roads will be completely blocked, and you won't be able to get to where you're going in all likelihood, because while the plows will be out, I'm sure, as much as they possibly can, there's only so much they can do when ½ a foot of snow is falling every 3 hours, which is expected in some localized areas at the peak of this event. Now, here are the warnings as promised. You can see a huge swath, winter storm warnings, all the way from the west coast into Michigan, with blizzard warnings in Wyoming, the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Those blizzard warnings stop just short of the Twin Cities metro, but they could be extended farther east during the next day or so. Now, we're currently at advisory level and winter storm watch in the northeast US. They will likely be upgraded to winter storm warnings as we get closer to impact in that part of the country. And there may be some ice storm warnings issued on the south side of that, as some freezing rain is also expected in the northeast US. Now, to the south of that, we have red flag warnings and high wind warnings due to strong winds causing a risk of fire in the southern plains, and the mountain southwest just having strong winds, particularly through those mountainous areas. Incredible to see winter storm warnings for mountainous areas of California all the way to the Mexican border. Very rare, but there is a continuous winter storm warning from the Canadian border of the Rockies all the way to Baja California in Mexico. But again, the focus is the blizzard warnings in Wyoming, the Dakotas, Minnesota, and parts of Wisconsin. Here's what you need to do with those warnings. I'm sure you're able to find out what your local level is. If you couldn't tell on that map, go to National Weather Service website, search up your nearest town or city. They will tell you what your local office is, and they will show you a warning map for your area, and you can see what the level is. Now, here is what you're advised to do from the National Weather Service. If you're in an advisory, be aware that travel difficulties will be expected. You may find that roads become impassable for a time during the next 12 to 36 hours. In this case, it may be longer than that due to the 3-day time span this event is occurring over. Winter storm warnings, hugely widespread. Dangerous winter weather is expected. It's not possible, it is happening already and will continue for the next 2 to 3 days. Considerable travel problems. Take action. Don't travel unless you absolutely have to. And if you're in a blizzard warning, do not travel. You will not be able to get to where you're going. If you go to work and the blizzard comes in, you'll be trapped there. And in this case, it could be 3 days before you're able to leave. I'm sure you don't want to be trapped at work potentially without food or power for 2 to 3 days. So stay at home. Hopefully you have supplies already, as this storm has already arrived in much of the worst areas. But you've still got time farther east, such as in Michigan. Just a couple of hours left to get out and get anything something you've missed. But I suspect a lot of stores will be out with, had quite a fair bit of build up to this historic storm. Now, here is the Winter Storm Severity Index. Now, it's a bit hard to see because the Twin Cities tag is covering it up, but we will zoom in a second. There are extreme impacts across many states, all along the mountain areas of the West Coast. Utah, Colorado, Wyoming in the mountains, but to low levels in Minnesota and Wisconsin, which is very rare. Now here is that zoomed in picture. As you can see, extreme impacts expected for Twin Cities, Marshall, Eau Claire, and other locations. Widespread major impacts outside of the metro areas. You're extremely unlikely to be able to travel. Almost every road will be blocked for hours, if not days, and some roads will not be ploughed at all. Well, a lot of roads won't be ploughed. They won't be able to plough every road. The main roads should open within a couple of days of the storm passing. Outside the metro areas, it may take longer in the metro areas, but some roads may be impassable for the next 7 days, depending on how fast that snow melts and can be cleared. Hopefully, you're prepared in this area as the snow has already arrived, but it's time to settle in for a long-duration historic snowstorm. Now, here is the National Weather Service forecast. You can see that contour of up to 2 foot in eastern Minnesota, near the Twin Cities, and in western Wisconsin. Again, that's a low-lying area, that's not mountains. Farther west, substantial snowfall through the Rockies, Sierra Nevada. Typical for those locations. They're used to it, but there's already been a great snow season so far in terms of building up that snowpack. It's great that what stuff we want to see after historic drought over the past several years, and they get a lot of their rainfall through snow. But yeah, historic blizzard, incredible to see. And getting all the way to the US East Coast, where half a foot can be expected in parts of Maine, and up to a foot through the more mountainous areas and along the coasts of the Great Lakes. Here is the projected ice totals from the NAM 3 kilometer model. Now, I'm not able to access the more reliable product for freezing rain, as that's behind a paywall, but you can take these values and approximately divide them by 2 to get what's more likely. And National Weather Service Grand Rapids and National Weather Service Detroit have indeed said that just over half an inch of ice is probable in parts of Michigan, where the heaviest freezing rain falls. It only takes 1/10 of an inch to cause travel impacts and potential loss of power. There will likely be substantial, albeit localized impacts from this ice storm to the south of the historic blizzard. Please take care in these areas as well. Now, here is the zoomed in focus on the millions of people that live in the Twin Cities area and other parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. These are all from National Weather Service Twin Cities. Feel free to pause and read in your own time again. You can see those blizzard warnings coming just up to the edge of the Twin Cities metro area. And 2 rounds of snow expected. First round already begun, as I have been saying. will continue until tomorrow morning. Second round will arrive midday Wednesday and last all the way into Thursday, and the worst impacts are expected during the second round. As you can see, National Weather Service is saying that life-threatening conditions are going to be brought by this historic blizzard, and in their own words, they're calling it historic. It is not overkilling it. Here is the very latest snowfall projection, slightly different from the older projection that you saw for the nationwide view through Pivotal Weather. Hasn't updated yet at the time of this video. This is hot off the press in the last half hour. Up to a foot of snow now expected in western Minnesota, slightly less for the Twin Cities, but still, 1.5 feet of snow in 2 days is incredible, especially for a densely populated city. And it's widespread across the entirety of that part of the state. Now, here's what you can do. If you have to travel and you have no alternative, for example, let's say you're trapped at you're in a location where power is going to go out and you have no way to stay warm, or you don't have enough supplies, and it's last minute but you need to get to a friend or family's house so you can be safe, that would be acceptable reason to travel. You should try to have a full tank of gas, charged mobile phone, water, and of course warm clothes with you. And you want to drive slowly, safely. You have snow chains, excellent. The roads will likely already have enough snow for them to be usable. Stay to the middle of the road, follow paths made by other traffic if you're on a main road. Of course, main roads will be easier to travel until they become blocked by motorists, in which case, dangerous. But basically, if you're going out in a car and you have no other choice, you want to assume that you will get stuck on the motorway, on the highway, and you may need rescuing. With these blizzard conditions, that may take some time, so you need to be able to stay safe, warm, and hydrated for up to 24 hours before rescue can hopefully reach you if you do get stranded. But of course, the best choice of action is for you to have already prepared, to not need to make last-minute changes to your location, and to just stay safe in a home or another building. Now, ice storms. The ice storm will be arriving shortly into Michigan, but still a fair bit of time before it gets to the eastern US. Already ongoing, likely across parts of the Midwest, Iowa, and Wisconsin. If you have anything that could fall, such as branches or decorations, you want to try and get them down before the ice arrives. You don't want something coated in ice that weighs twice as much as it normally would crashing through onto your car or through a conservatory. In your house, you want to have as much food and prescriptions as can be possible. You don't have to be trying to travel before the ice has been cleared. And if at all possible, don't park your cars under trees. And there will obviously be potential power outages. Keep your electronic devices charged so you can stay up to date with the latest official information. The winter storm, the blizzard, is also likely to cause power outages. You need to stay warm, but practice safety. Keep pets and children away from heaters or candles to avoid a fire hazard, and use portable generators at least 20 foot away from doors, windows, or garages to avoid poisoning from the fumes that it gives off. Once the storm is over and you are safe and your house is safe and you've managed to get out, because there's a very high likelihood that some places will be snowed in by snowdrifts with the incredible amount of snow that's about to fall, check on your neighbours. You may be okay, but they may have made a mistake or something may have happened. You want to check they're okay so that you can get them to help as soon as possible if they're not able to call for help themselves. Now, onto the severe weather. Substantially lower threat than the historic winter storm, but it still needs to be going over. Damaging wind event is the main risk. It's 2 out of 5 level. Narrow corridor, as you can see, that's slight risk from southern Oklahoma through parts of Arkansas and Kansas, through the majority of Missouri, including Columbus, St. Louis, Springfield, Joplin, and into central Illinois, with a marginal risk around that. Isolated tornadoes and severe hail will be possible, but it's more conditional, more uncertain. More information on that tomorrow when we will have a follow-up video to this, taking you through how the severe weather and winter weather are progressing. And here's the 4-panel forecast. As you can see, low tornado risk, only 2% at this time. Low hail risk, only 5% at this time. The slight risk is entirely driven by the wind threat. 15% not hatched. It's likely to be below hurricane force gusts, so 60 to 70 mile an hour. Now, here's the close-up model of that severe weather. As you can see, those storms are ongoing through central Oklahoma at the start of the period, around midday or early morning tomorrow. They quickly move northeastwards along that narrow corridor, and they die out as they get into Illinois and Indiana. And then that line will gradually move to the east, bringing some rain and potentially some thunder, maybe localized severe impacts into Kentucky, Tennessee, etc. Hopefully these places are used to thunderstorm watches and warnings. Here's a quick reminder if you have forgotten. It has been a short while since the recent. There's been plenty of severe events, and unusually many, but there's a quick reminder. Helping others, thunderstorms, just the usual, same as the ice storm really. Get loose items away, get them inside, don't want them blowing away or tree branches falling. And when you hear thunder, get inside to avoid being struck by lightning, and stay inside until the storms have safely passed your location. If there are tornadoes, move to your safe place. Have a way to get those warnings, so you have as much time as possible to get to your safe place. And hopefully you know where your safe place is. If not, now is the time to work that out. Now, that has been an awful lot to go through, a historic event with widespread and far-reaching impacts. Incredible to think that a foot of snow has already fallen in many places, and some places, including densely populated metro areas, could see up to 2 feet, which would put this storm in the top 5 on record for the Twin Cities. If it beats 21 inches, it will be the second most extreme winter storm to ever strike the Twin Cities metro, and it would be behind only one storm that produced 28 inches. We're unlikely to beat that storm, but second place for all time is within reach. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you're staying safe wherever you are. If you enjoyed this video or found our information helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. We do these updates as often as possible for winter weather, severe weather, tropical weather, all hazards that we can, primarily in North America at this time, but we're hoping to cover more of the world, particularly the tropics, going forwards. And if you're interested in helping out, or you have some further questions to ask us, feel free to join us on our Discord. We're active almost all the time, and if you ping one of the staff members, we're happy to help you out. Thank you very much. Have a good day.